Welcome to the May meeting of the Sustainability Committee. And we do not have a quorum, so it's not an official meeting. But what I would like to do is do a real quick run through some information that hopefully those who are not able to be here tonight can then go back and watch they weren't there live, but they can watch the movie. So let me share my screen and we'll just go through some things. So we've got an agenda we sent out. We will not approve minutes since we do not have a quorum. We had Jess LeClaire from Sustainable CT at our last meeting, and she gave us a nice presentation sort of updating us on the new Sustainable CT program. You know, they changed it in this past year. But the big thing we focused on was this review of time frame for credit. So I just want to review that so there's a document that is on the Sustainable CT website, and this is it. You can see this time frame for credit guidance.
Yep.
And it's actually, I think it's simpler than at least I was making it before. So there's a bunch of items. When we look at an action item, if we didn't do it before, then anything we do is going to be a new action credit. If we did it before, there's no sort of automatic credit that we can extend it. Basically, everything we did before, we have to treat as a rolling action credit. So if you look at this line here under rolling credit, if you are applying for recertification in your year of expiration, which is what we're going to be doing next spring, i.e. you have been certified for 3 years, you must apply for rolling action credit for any item that was previously received credit, even if it was completed within the past 3 years. So if there's stuff we did 3 years ago that we want, or 2 years ago that we want to get credit for, we have to treat it as rolling credit, a rolling action. And that means there's this term here, we need to demonstrate ongoing, currently relevant and meaningful impact in our community. So we're going to be, hopefully some of the things we did before are still relevant, are ongoing, are still meaningful, and those will be easier to get points for than starting new stuff. But there's nothing that's automatic. We're going to have to demonstrate that it's still relevant. And we don't need to go through this in detail, but there's this nice table that we can refer to as we're going through. And it basically says, for what type of actions, if it was events, meetings, and trainings, for example, if you want new action credit, you put the date occurred. If you're looking for rolling credit, these ones, they're not eligible. Like we did a series of lectures and movies 2 years ago. Those were events, meetings, trainings. Those we can't get any more credit for, which makes sense, right? Implementation projects and this data tracking benchmarking, not eligible for rolling credit. So as we're going through our old actions and we see that they were, I think what we want to do is we want to see where do they fit into this type of action. And then we've got guidance here of how we can go about getting rolling credit. So that's actually fairly simple, I think. I think it seemed more complicated before. But so this is a good document that we're going to want to refer to. So the other document I would like to, let me quick look at our agenda. I'm going to kind of go in different order. I'm going to put this item 4 last. And what I'd like to do is look at this, where is it? It's this Google Sheet. So this is a new Google Sheet. Let me start with this one. This one we looked at. And this is basically the list that Sustainable CT, you can download this from their website, and it's a detailed list of all of the actions, right? You've got you've got categories, right? Inclusive, equitable community impacts, thriving communities. There's like 13 categories, and then you've got you've got 2.1, for example, support redevelopment of brownfield sites, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sort of sub actions there, right? So this is really detailed. So I've taken this and I tried roughly to put in where we got points 2 years ago. It's a little bit approximate because some of the things have changed and they moved around a little bit, but this is a great spreadsheet when you really want to be looking in detail. What are we going to do for this action? But it's a little overwhelming when you're trying to sort of see where we are. I mean, how many rows are there? There's like hundreds, right? There's hundreds of rows here. So what I did was I took, and I took this column A and I created a unique list. So I only have, for example, 7, 8. I don't have 7, 8, 1, 7, 8, 2. I have 7, 7, but not all the details. So if we look at that, this is a little easier to kind of see and keep track of. So here there's 13 categories and there's the different actions, right? So this has 88 rows, right? And I put in where we've got points before, roughly. And I'm starting to put in what we want to do for 2022 for next year. So how many points we think we can get, whether it's new or rolling, who's going to take the lead on it, and who do we need to consult. So I would suggest this document be our kind of planning document. I know teams, I know in other towns, they would get together in a room and they'd have a big matrix, big board that they would be doing something like this. I think this can work for us. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was looking through this action list and I looked at the brownfields. Is it 2.1? I'm going to make a seasick here. So support redevelopment of brownfield sites. If we do nothing more than create an inventory of our brownfield sites in town, we get 5 points, right? So we should be able to do that. And maybe there's some things, there's other actions. So I think at this point, we want to flag 2.1. We don't need to go into 2.13 and 2.14 yet. But what I'd like to do is suggest, let's take a look at 2.1. And I penciled in Bob's name here. But what I think each of us should do is kind of go through this list and say, oh, there's one that I think, we can do, and I'm willing to go sort of do some research on it, and start to just pencil in how many points we think we can get and who's taking the lead. There was this document that Sherry put together. Let me pull that up. That here, I think it's here. That kind of assigned categories to people. So I think she was doing 1, so I'll take 1, and Bob was going to do 2, and Danielle and Tim were going to split up 3. That's great. And I don't know exactly how that discussion went, but I think we should kind of treat this more like soccer than American football, right? Let's kind of, if we roam the field and play each other's position a little bit, that's okay, rather than these fixed positions. For example, I'm willing to take on 2.6 because it's a C-PACE program. It's related to energy. So I think what each of us should do, and I'm speaking not only to you, Joe, but to folks who might watch this later, is I've shared a link to this spreadsheet with you. Go in here and spend some time looking at these actions, right? Here it's high level, and let's say you want to look to 3.4, develop an open space plan. Go into the other sheet and say, all right, what does that really mean? What are the steps? What are the sub-steps? How many points we can get? So look here and then go back and say, all right, I think we can maybe do 15 points and I'm willing to take the lead on that. Put your name in here. And by the way, we should be working with the Wetlands Commission or whatever. So let's start to populate this thing. And I think at our next meeting, try to sort of walk through it. So I think, look at what stuff you personally would be interested in taking the lead on. And the other thing is, what do we know about other groups who might be doing stuff that could sort of take the lead? And one example here is pollinator pathways. There are groups, there is at least one group, I think there are multiple groups in town working on pollinator pathways. Let's reach out to them and show them what the actual steps are to getting credit for this one, and try to involve people throughout the community. So,
are those actual committees involved with the pollinator pathways, or is that just independent
think that one's independent. I know some of the people involved, and I can help connect us there. Um, so I think in general though, they're going to be both, right? Some of these will be, well, let's go to the planning department, or let's go to Parks and Rec, or let's go to the, the recycling, committee. Some we may want to be reaching out to the community. I want to come back to that a little bit in terms of outreach. Here, parking management, for example, we got 10 points before. I don't know if were you involved in that, Ray? So you are now when we did this before, but any of the parking stuff, parking plan or parking stuff, is that an issue you've been involved in?
No, all this stuff was done before I actually got on board. You'd just gotten the certification. So the only thing I know is that there is a parking study, and we looked at it when we were doing the facilities master plan, but that's the only thing I'm familiar with it.
So that's an interesting example. Let me pull up, did I close it? I think I closed it. Let me pull up this thing, time frame for credit. What would a study be? Committee position creation maybe, or policy regulation resolution. So we need to review the materials, the names and titles of individuals, the group performed it, and have any updates been submitted? Is it being lived? Is it relevant? Right, those kind of things. So that's an example where I think, I just flagged, we're going to want to talk to Public Works. So I think, let's go through each of these and, see if that's something. I think, Joe, your category was 9,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So I penciled your name in here. So, and I think what would be good is for each of the actions where we got points, somebody should go do that exercise of, can we get rolling credit for it still? So I penciled your name there. You might want to look at what we did before. The other helpful document is, of course, our report from our certification report from 2019. And hopefully these links in the agenda will work for you. Here's our 2019 submission report summary. So if those links don't work, let me know. But this is our, this one's not so big. I think we can email this around, but we can look at which one we were just looking at. We were looking at 9.1 and 9.3, but it wouldn't have been 9.1 and 9.3. Probably was 8.1.
Or was it 7? Or
Where am I looking for now? I just opened that up. Where is it? Is it here? Where'd it go? All right, let me reopen it. It's probably in Google Chrome, right? Yeah, here it is. Just scroll down a bit.
so this is the report where we got certification 3 years ago.
Yep. So 8, optimize for equity.
I always have trouble finding this.
Yeah, here's so 7.5. Maybe we could add that column if we need to. By the way, there is in this document, the action overview, the detailed one, there is a program translation guide. So if we're now looking at 9.1, that was 7.5. So that's a tab here. So 7.5, here's what we did. Reduce solid waste, generate 20 points, and there are these documents, Simsbury MSW, letter to deep. And we got 7.5.2, we got, so we got 20 points, 7.5, so 7.5.2 is what we did. So that's probably now.
So that, to get to what you were just looking at, you sent out a link for that?
Yeah, it's in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
2019 submission report summary.
Okay, summary. Okay.
So there's like 3 or 4 documents that we're going to want to really be able to pull up. That's why I'll try to see if these links work for you. If not, I may need to find a better way to do that. But so that's this one. So by looking at that report, you can see what we got, and then you can even look at the documents, open those up, and we can then see, are those still relevant? Are those still? So let's maybe, give that a shot. Let's maybe do some of that together at our next meeting. But I think when we're looking at this list here, part
so
of the
that's
exercise is look at these ones we did before. Can we get credit for them?
so that summary you were just showing and the links on the summary, I can get to everything that was submitted the last time.
Yep.
Okay.
I think so. If I click on that, is it going to work? It's redirecting us to. I don't know if that link is going to work.
Well, I'll check it out.
The other thing you can do is you go to the website and you go to participating communities and go to Simsbury. You can view our whole report.
Okay. So
this is it online, and then you can download it. That's what I had done. So this is actually the better way to do it. So if we go down to 7.5, you can click here, and you can see we got 20 points, and here's a lot of information. So then you can look at that and then put it against those questions of is it still relevant? Is it still being done?
one interesting thing was I was talking with that. Is it Jen LeClaire? Is that her name?
Jess.
Jess. And she connected me with the lady from I believe it was Manchester, who they ran a successful food scrap program, and she connected me so I could talk to her about some of the things the recycling committee was looking at. And she just said that you can get points just by working with other municipalities.
Right.
So I don't know how much of that goes on with us, but I just wanted to put that out there that there are points available for that collaborating.
That's a good point. So yeah, here's where you can download this if you want. If we go back, the other thing that you can do is along the lines of what you were just saying. Let's say you want to, you're interested in this development. No, not 7.5. It was 7.5. Now it's 9.1. You filter up here. This will show you the towns that did 9.1.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And then you can go in and look at their report. So where's Manchester? Over here? Mansfield.
Or maybe it was Mansfield. I forgot. Yeah, it might have.
So you can look at their report and scroll down to 7.5 and see what they did and look at their, their documents, their all, what they submitted.
Mm-hmm.
Right here. Energy watchdog profile building. No, where am I? 7.5. This isn't it. They didn't do. This suggests they didn't do it.
I don't know. Maybe it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is interesting. Oh, they must have done it under the new plan. So it's 9.1. It's right here. Right? Yeah. So here's their PDFs. Here's what they did. So this ability to go look at what towns did certain actions is pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, again, this is our kind of overall planning document, and we want to make sure each of the things we did before, somebody's name is here, and they're going back and looking at what we did and seeing if it's still relevant, seeing if it's eligible for rolling credit. Because I think that's going to be possibly some low-hanging fruit, right? To if we're still living some of the stuff we did before. And then in general, I think go through here. I started briefly. A lot of the stuff in category 7 is energy stuff. So I'm happy to take the lead on those. And there were a couple others, streamlined solar permitting in 5, 6. I'm willing to take the lead on that and go figure out how many points I think we can get. So I think we should just, it's a big list. There's still 88 things here, but it's a lot easier to work with than this one. So I think maybe over a couple meetings, we want to kind of work our way through these and start to pencil in point values so we can see, all right, we got a shot at the 400 points we're going to need, right? So after this meeting, I'm going to send out a link because this spreadsheet is not linked in from the from those minutes because I created it after we sent that. But I think this sheet will be helpful.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So that was looking at the action list. This topic of community outreach, I touched on this before, but I think as we're going through that list, let's think about, is there a group in town, the pollinator pathway group, or the bicycle, the bike pedestrian? We've got a very active bike pedestrian group. Are there, the Spirit Council is working on, racial issues. The different committees, the recycling committee, the clean energy, I'm kind of covering, but are there, as we just go through this list, let's not just think that we 8 people or 7 people have to do everything, right? Let's bring in people that are involved. I'm going to talk to some folks I know who are really interested in invasive species, and maybe we can get them to take the lead there. Managed woodlands, I know somebody who's very active in that. So this is too big, I think, for just us to do. So we got to bring in other groups who we know, or the Historical Society might want to address this, assess historic resources. And along the lines of outreach, I think another and a couple steps we should take is we should get around to some of these groups. I'd be willing, and I think if 1 or 2 from the team would want to join me, let's go on Simsbury Community TV and do a little half-hour segment. We can maybe get somebody from Jess or somebody from Sustainable CT to join us, and basically introduce the program and say, hey, if you're out there doing any involved in any kind of activities that touch on sustainability, please reach out to us. We'd like to get it counted. And by the way, there's this opportunity for matching grants. So I think go on SCTV, and then I think do a little bit of a roadshow. Maybe go in front of the Board of Selectmen. Get around to some of the boards and commissions we think could be interesting. Maybe there's other community groups we should talk to. Because I think the more we can get other people to say, yeah, we're involved in this, and I'll take the lead on getting all the documents together, the more likely we are to get. And I think that's kind of the spirit of this thing. If all we're doing, and I'm thinking back on the discussion when we were considering should we take part in Sustainable CT or not. And I know one of the arguments that people made against it was, if all we're going to do is just kind of document what we've already done, what's the point, right? We're just kind of greenwashing. But I think now, we got silver 2 years ago. Now let's go through this list and either, let's find other stuff that is being done in the community, and maybe even engage people to do new stuff, right? And get matching funding for it. Because there's a bunch of really interesting things on here. Some of it we have not done yet.
You talk about reaching out to the community. I mean, those are good ideas that you brought up, Mark. Unfortunately, probably the best way to reach the most amount of people these days is through Facebook. I just don't know if that's a bridge we want to cross, or I mean,
absolutely. We have a Facebook page, right?
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
The sustainability.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, you
I don't know
do?
if we've done anything with it yet. I can try to pull it up. Do you know
So
what it's called? What it's called, Ray?
it's probably just sustainable CT. It does exist. There probably isn't a lot on it because it kind of came up just as Sherry was bowing out. So she gave us a few ideas. We kind of just didn't get very far with it, and it's probably just sitting with your name on it at this point.
This is their sustainable
Yeah,
sustainable
Simsbury maybe.
Simsbury sustainability team. Is that anything?
That sounds bright.
So no post yet. But yeah, this
I
and get
mean,
this.
what's the biggest, message board for Simsbury?
There are what is it? There's one just Simsbury. Here's Simsbury Neighbors.
Simsbury Neighbors Unite right there. No, you got it right.
Yep, right there. And there's a Simsbury. I grew up in Simsbury, but that is not I think there's just one Simsbury, Connecticut, right?
Well, no, but
This
I
one.
think that Simsbury Neighbors Unite, it probably has the most members.
I think you're right.
Active
Yeah.
members.
7.8 thousand members.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yep.
just brainstorming about ways to reach out to the community, like for example, pollinator pathways, you put something on there, you're bound to get some,
Yep.
some feedback.
Yep. That's a great idea. Yeah, let's use Facebook. So the one last thing I wanted to do, and we can take time and do this again, but let's just take a few minutes maybe. And on the homepage, the splash page of Sustainable CT, there's this community match fund. And there's a really cool presentation that I've seen Abe Hildig-Solario from Sustainable CT, he manages this, give. And let's just kind of maybe get some ideas out of this. So he talks a little bit about how much they've done for the community match fund. They've done $1.2 million, 98 projects, 53 towns, 4,000 individual donations, median value of $50. So here's where the projects are located, and here's where the donors, right? So the idea behind this is you crowdfund as much as you can, and then Sustainable CT matches. Right? And they've got this site set up to make crowdfunding really easy called Patronicity. So it's a really cool model that really, for any group doing something, the pollinator pathways or the bike group or whatever, if they can raise, if they got a project that's going to cost maybe a couple $1,000s, if they can crowdfund half of that, they can get the rest from Sustainable CT. So, and what he's done here is just a pictures and a brief description of various projects that have gotten funding. So, and I thought it might be interesting just to get some ideas by brainstorming, by just going through here. DIY bike repair program, COVID safe transportation in New Haven, a bike ped trail. This was interesting. They got the last $15,000 needed to do a $1.4 million expansion. It's an interesting. We've got the Terrafill connector, so that might be something. A trail expansion and boardwalk. Another trail project in Oxford. A crosswalk. Lighting for this underpass corridor here. EV chargers. They don't actually have a picture of it here, but this is the old lighting. So they're doing some new energy efficient lighting and a housing authority, right? So that's another group to talk to. We've got a couple low income housing facilities in town. Brantford did a campaign to promote heat pumps. Residential energy efficiency concierge. It's a company that does that. Composting, all kinds of stuff we do with composting. So this was Planet New Canaan, the food scrap recycling program.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're looking at some of that.
There's another one, food scraps recycling in Stanford. School
Hmm.
composting in Greenwich. Municipal and Farmers Compost Conference, like an event. Food recovery in Hamden. So, each of these, we can go back and get their report, see what they did, and Sustainable CT will put us in touch with them too, as you saw, Joe.
Yeah.
Food scraps recovery, a lot of composting, food recovery. Sojourn Market, Sustainable Cheshire, donated home composting bins to Cheshire residents. Restorative food justice at Emerge CT in New Haven. Planter Project. This was Hartford, right? Where's this? Oh, New Haven. Edible Fruit Trail. Farmers markets, COVID-safe farmers markets. Land stewardship, the land trust to employ summer interns. So we should maybe at our next meeting, make a list of organization. I mean, here's one here: land trust organizations we should reach out to, and each of us agree to talk to them and just say, hey, you need to be aware of these matching grant opportunities if you're doing stuff. Invasive plants management. Mono state park expansion. Open space preservation. Restoration of Great Brook. Habitat restoration. Park renovation. Colt Park trees. An arboretum led by a project created a Chaplain Bicentennial Arboretum. Tree plantings. I forget how many there are here. And 41 about. Maybe we'll just. I think you can get a kind of sense here. Let's go through this. Let's do a couple more. Tree planting. Trees. At-home vegetable garden. Community gardens. Demonstration gardens. Community gardens at senior center. So yes, we'll stop there, but feel free to go back. As I said, you go to the homepage and it's right here, Community Match Fund, and view projects. So that's I think a pretty valuable source of brainstorming. So I think now that those were the items that I wanted to cover. So what I will do, I think once the video is up on the SCTV site, I'll send out another email to the group with a link to that video and a link to these documents, sort of 4 or 5 documents, and some sort of suggestions of what we can start to do. And then at our June meeting, sort of maybe put some more structure on this.
Okay.
Good. I think, we have almost a year. So I think if we are able to engage people, we have a good shot at doing this. But I think it would be nice to have some fun with it, and so to get some new stuff done, and then bring some people in who weren't involved before. And if we don't get, other people to help, and everybody's really, interested in, identifying more of these actions that we either have done or could do, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be a heavy lift. It's going to be hard, but I think we can do it.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have some fun. So on that note, thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ray. So stay tuned. I'll send out this information.
Okay, Mark.
Good night, guys.
All right.
All right.
Enjoy your evening. See you.